In 1915, Oscar Howe was born on the Crow Creek Reservation in South Dakota. Even at a young age, it could be seen that Howe's mind was creative. Though his parents did not encourage him, Howe found ways to continue in his work. He learned a great deal from his grandmother, who taught him from the work of his great-grandfather. As a young adult, Howe was sent into World War II. After some time in the war, he returned to South Dakota and began his studies at Dakota Wesleyan University. In time, Howe received his Master's of Fine Arts degree and became a professor at the University of South Dakota.
My name is Allison Erasmus, and I am the director of the University Art Galleries at USD. We're a university art gallery system of 3 galleries. So the John A. Day Gallery is our main gallery, and then we have Gallery 110, which is a smaller gallery in the Warren Emily Center for Fine Arts.
Along with the other 2 university art galleries, Allison also manages the Oscar Howe Gallery, located in historic Old Main.
The Oscar Howe collection was started when Oscar Howe was a professor here. He was working with artists, but he also did a variety of other teaching activities, I believe, with Native Studies, if it was even called that back then. But basically it says here that the Oscar Howe collection was initiated in 1959. So pretty soon after he came here to USD to teach, the collection was established. And the agreement was that the collection would grow and the artist was going to donate up to 2 paintings every year that he worked for the University of South Dakota, but also a fund was established to purchase paintings. So on and off throughout that history since 1959, when Oscar Howe worked for the University of South Dakota, the paintings were either donated or there was a fund established to purchase artwork. Well, I know that there are slightly over 100 paintings by Oscar Howe. And we also have over 300 drawings, which means that they're just graphite on paper drawings. And a lot of the drawings that he did turned into paintings, so it's great to have his sketches and his drawings because he was an excellent artist in the terms of line work and just working with a graphite pencil. He was excellent at
The majority of Oscar Howe's pieces are devoted to his 2D material, but he also worked in other mediums. Along with paintings, the university holds some of Oscar Howe's sculptures, lithographic prints, and bronze castings.
We do have some bronzes that were cast after Oscar Howe's death, but they were cast made by him, designed by him, and we have some, as I said, they're basically bronze plaques, but there's not a great amount of those. I don't think we have more than 10.
When asked her opinion on Oscar Howe's style, Allison stated that he was a true craftsman.
I think that Oscar Howe was a true craftsman, and I think that he was definitely a huge contributor to an art historical period that we now refer to as Native Modernism.
Many of the Howe paintings are currently being worked on for display.
One of the first paintings donated to the Oscar Howe collection, and it's also one of the largest. This is Calling on the Wonkan Tonka, and it was made in 1962. What they're doing there, but this is like a spiritual act that is like very important to this ceremony. Is very important to their culture, and so he really retained that, and everything ties back to that. And basically, after World War II in America, there were a group of Native American artists who really started to forge their own path and their own artistic sensibility that moved away from their earlier training in the 1930s, in particular under Dorothy Dunn in the Santa Fe Indian School, which is where a lot of these Native modernists trained initially. And because of the GI Bill, a lot of these artists went back to school after World War II and started to employ abstraction and started to do different things, started to deviate from the more illustrative forms of their art making, where it was very flat and was really basic representations that were easily readable. So you see a shift where you have all this movement, and the forms are sometimes very obvious. It's a dancer, it's a horse, and then you have these meditation paintings which are very abstracted and fragmented, and you really can't discern what's being depicted. So I think that Oscar Howe was, as I said, deeply influential. He was a native modernist who was really trying to assert his own creative independence, and he was also trying to advocate that native art could be anything. It didn't have to fit into any subscribed or prescribed format according to any curator or art instructor. And so I just think he was a progressive artist. He was definitely revolutionary.
Currently in the Oscar Howe Gallery is the show, Dance of the Warrior.
A lot of his war dances are really quite remarkable. We have a war dance that's on display in the Howe Gallery right now that was done right after he graduated from graduate school, and it looks like a mobile, and it looks very modern. It's a very beautiful modern painting, and the figure looks masked, and it's just a stunning piece, and he has a black background. And I really like when he isolates the figures like that with a black background, and the color really pops. He was just talented. He has beautiful line quality in his paintings. He drew everything. He was not intuitive in the sense that he would just take paint to canvas and start pushing paint around and just wherever the colors went. Everything was planned out. You can see it in the sketches. The designs, the compositions were laid out and sketched and perfected, and then his use of color when he would add color to these designs were impeccably planned. And the color relationships, the complementary and analogous color relationships were very much planned out. So I just think his paintings have stood as a testament to his craftsmanship and his artistry, because they're in great condition today, and they'll continue to live on and be beautiful for, I would suspect, another couple of years if everything goes okay. This is a sunflower figure, and it was painted in 1970. Something that's really interesting about looking at Howe paintings when they're not in a frame is you can see here that as Howe made more and more paintings, he started to mark his paintings with his thumbprint. And it was like a way of indexing it, I think, and pointing out that these are by him. At least I assume that was the purpose, but it's really kind of interesting to see his thumb fingerprint there on the edge of the painting.
Allison states that some of her favorite Oscar Howe pieces are his mural preps.
Oscar Howe's mural prep work that he did, Oscar Howe worked for the Works Progress Administration and was a muralist in South Dakota before World War II. And at that time he had some artistic training, but he was also, a lot of the WPA artists were amateurs with artistic inclination, if you will. And then they would get extra training through the federal government to make murals and public art projects for rural communities especially, which definitely applied to South Dakota in the 1930s and still even today. So Oscar Howe's mural preps, we obviously don't have his murals because they're in the buildings where they were painted, but he has a lot of these mural preps that are just, and when I say prep, they're basically paintings or sketches that he did on a smaller scale before he painted on the wall. And they're just so impeccable and beautiful, and they're not titled works, they're not completed, finished works. They were really for a visual exercise to get to the other format, the mural format, but I think that those are really beautiful. Very Oscar Howe, he was basically saying, well, I'm going to say it's fine art because I say it's fine art, and so I enjoy a lot of his works. It's really hard to narrow down. So.
Throughout his life, Oscar Howe left a large impression on Native American art itself. His legacy can be seen across the art field as well as here at the University of South Dakota.